Uh, Hello again. Thank you for joining. We will talk about Copado and Salesforce TX, which we named it Copado RDX. And this is a forward-looking statement that you are all familiar with all the other presentations you saw. And as I said, today we will be talking about Copado developer experience, and all. My name is Mark. I'm the product manager of Copado DX. I'll be showing all we have, and I will try to do it in 20 minutes. And let me talk about Copado first. So Copado is a leading provider of Salesforce release management application. And then we are now with Copado DX, a development lifecycle management application as well. And we are basically releasing your end-to-end release and development lifecycle process. We have easy test automation for Selenium testing, and also we have compliance scans, static analysis integrations, and everything. And we are one of the fastest growing ISV partners of Salesforce in Europe. So we keep growing constantly, and we are trying to deliver the best release management solution in Salesforce environment. And you can see our footprint all around the globe. We are currently in 5 continents, serving over 100 customers for 18,000 users every day. And you can see all the big numbers that we have on page views and app sessions and everything. And as I said, today we will present Copado DX. Copado DX is a solution that we built around Salesforce TX functionalities in release management process. So today we will talk about it. I will give you a quick demo about the features that we have, and then we will talk about the new version that we are about to release, and we will show you all the other functionalities. Since I have limited time, I'm not sure if we can spare some time for the Q&A. Even if I can't, we have our booth in front of Waterfall Theater. So whenever you want, you can just visit us over there for the Q&A. So before we begin with the Copado DX functionality, let me actually talk about a little bit of Salesforce TX and Scratch. You commit your selection into your artifact repository, and your selection will be safe and isolated in the proper repository for the artifact. And the next step is basically creating a definition template. We are still in the transition period, and I'm a developer. I don't know what my production org looks like in terms of features and org preferences, and I don't really need to know that because that's not my concern. That needs to be defined and defined clearly for me to start working on my Scratch org. So a release manager or project manager can define these templates for developers to use. And same thing for metadata as well. We call them project templates. A release manager can basically select set of artifacts, set of metadata for developers to use these as templates. And by using this operational setup, developers can be assigned to a user story. They can review their user story to know what they need to do. We are following agile methodology for these purposes. They can see their agile content, functional and technical specification, and then the next thing they need to do is to create a Scratch org. In order to create a Scratch org, we have Scratch org wizard. And then when you click on it, it will give you a 3-step process. The first step is defining your org shape, and then the second step is loading metadata, and then review and complete. As I said, I don't know what to select in here for my Scratch org. That's why I have this template selected, and when I select, all the features and org preferences are automatically enabled for me. And if I click on next, it will take me to the load metadata step, and in here, I still don't know which metadata to select so that I can select my project template. I can select my project template for Git artifacts, for package artifacts as well. But if I have a certain scenario which I need to, let's say, introduce a hotfix for an older version or do a retroactive changes, I can basically spin up a Scratch org out of a release that we have in the system for patch or hotfix purposes. Or let's say I have a Scratch org which is expired last week, but I still need to do some changes on that. I can create a Scratch org out of the branch of my expired Scratch org, and I can continue working with it. So by using this feature, you can basically extend your Scratch org duration. And the last one is metadata. In terms of metadata, Salesforce TX is quite limited. If your org is not huge, if your org is suitable with Salesforce TX, you can basically clone your org into a Scratch org by using all the metadata that you have. After you decide which metadata to work on, The next step is where you define your deployment flow, your deployment destination deployment flow step, and also in here you can select the permission sets for your Scratchwork user, and at the end you can review all the Scratchwork structure that you have before you actually create it. Once you create, Copado will create the Scratchwork, enable all the features, enable all the org preferences or disable them, and then it will load all the metadata that you have selected, and at the end it will create a deployment step, deployment flow step, it will assign all permission sets to your user, and then you will be ready to work on. Even if the setup is not ready for you to deliver your user stories, we have extension capability to extend Salesforce TX by using Copado deployment power. So in here we have all these types available. So you can basically add extra metadata, you can commit, you can migrate full profile and full permission sets, you can even migrate users for different purposes, for example, testing purposes. And you can migrate translations, data by using standard or bulk API, and all these will be available for the extension purposes. And one other thing that I want to mention about this, for example, adding business hours. Business hours, public holidays, or things that kind of that is actually not available in Salesforce TX by default. But let's say if you are working with a sales department and if you have a logic around the business hours or public holidays, you need to set them manually every time you create a Scratchwork. By using these extensions, you can basically create it as a template, and every time you create a Scratchwork, it will be executed, and your Scratchwork will be ready for you to use. After you have your Scratchwork completed, ready to use, you can get org details for further information. You can generate passwords for using your Scratchwork in any IDE. As a developer, I never use Salesforce UI to introduce changes, work on metadata, because it's not good enough to deliver complex functionality in Salesforce environment. That's why you can generate a password by using that password and your security token. You can log in, you can authenticate in any IDE, and you can keep working on it. And also in here, we have open and delete Scratchwork buttons. With a single button click, you can log into your Scratchwork, or if you don't need this Scratchwork anymore, you can simply delete that, and you will empty the Scratchwork limit. Sorry. All right, once you get your org definition, you can see all the information that Salesforce TX provides, and then you can basically generate the password as well. And around open Scratchwork, delete Scratchwork, and password, we have a strict security. You need to be the owner of this org credential in order to see those buttons and the password. Once you have your Scratchwork, you can, as I said, introduce all the changes you have, and then next step would be the committing those changes into your Git repository. Once you go back to your user story, you can go into commit screen, and from here, you can see all the available metadata. You can either select your changes manually, or you can get org status, which will give you all the changed or added or deleted metadata automatically. And by using these information, you can simply click on select the exchanges, which will select all the changed files for you without even worrying about if you forget something or not. All right, at this point, once you commit your changes onto your user story, you can enforce some quality gates. In Copado, we have lots of quality gates on user stories and also on environments. Basically, you can validate your user story to see the deployment result. If you try to deploy this user story, what's going to happen, you can get that information from there. You can execute Selenium testing for automated regression testing purposes. You can execute static analysis to see if you are introducing a code quality issue or security issue. And then you can run a compliance scan for this user story. By running a compliance scan, you can actually see if you are violating any compliance rule of your business, which means you can define your own rule set. And one other quality gate that we have on user story is Apex code coverage. If you commit an Apex class onto your user story, Copado will automatically recognize and check this has Apex code checkbox. And then this minimum code coverage will be enforced. And in order to get that code coverage information, you don't need to go and log into your developer environment. You can simply click on Run Apex Test and get the test results, and everything will be in here. Since we are on Salesforce and everything we use is Salesforce technology, it's native, you can basically create a report for all the user stories that you have in your release, and you can decide when actually you need to release your new version. One other thing that I really want to mention is the test scripts. As a developer or as a test engineer, you can define a functionality testing in the script, and then you can assign a test run for your colleagues for different purposes. When you get assigned to a test run, you can simply create a test scratcher dedicated for your test purposes. And it's a single button click test scratcher creation. What's going to happen is it will read the development org, the user story development org or scratch org that you are working with, and it will automatically clone it into a test scratch org. By using that scratch org, you can execute your tests, and once you complete your test, it will be deleted in a day. Or by using the X operations, you can delete them as well. And then, as you can see in here, as we mentioned, while developers are working on their scratch orgs or on their developer environments, the user stories gets completed, and then release managers can streamline those user stories by using scratch orgs and streamline those user stories into integration, staging, and up to your production environment. And this integration process, this deployment process will be seamless. And if you face with a conflict during this process, Copado has an auto-resolve conflict manager, and also we are now introducing online conflict manager with the new version. So if you get a warning, or if you get blocked by the conflict, you will be able to merge those conflicts by using Copado UI. You don't really need to go anywhere else. And it doesn't really matter how complex and big your organization is, Copado can scale and fulfill all the business requirements that you have. And all these will be on the native Salesforce UI that you're all familiar with. All right. This was the demo that I have. And for the new features that we will introduce in the version 11 of Copado, we are now introducing, as I said, online conflict resolution. And now we are also introducing new Git operations. Currently on the commit page, you can commit your changes. But this new feature, you will be able to recommit. You can do destructive changes, or you can undo a commit, or with the version 42 of Salesforce API, you can commit full profiles and full permission sets. And also, while promoting your user stories, we will be using version tags. If your user story is associated with a version which has a version number on it, we will use a Git tag for your changes. And by using those tags, you can basically replicate an older version, and you can introduce your patches or hotfixes. One of the biggest features that we are introducing in this version is Copado RDX. We already mentioned about Copado RDX. It's a solution that we built around Salesforce TX, and it's also in association with all the release management process that we have. And now we are also introducing Copado Academy. It's an e-learning platform where you can get Copado certified, or where you can get deeper knowledge about Copado, and everything you need will be there. And one other good feature that we have velocity integration. Every single velocity metadata that you have in your org will be manageable in the release management process that we have in Copado. And if you can see your city in here, we will not stop after Trailhead TX. We will continue our world tour. We will join all these Salesforce events. If you will be there, you are more than welcome to visit us in our booths. All right, we have only 1 minute and 30 seconds, so I can try to answer some questions if you have any. Currently, I don't have anything prepared for CI/CD, so the question is, do I have any CI/CD presentation prepared in this demo? So currently, I don't have it, but if you stop by at our booth, I can show you, or any of our colleagues can show you. I'm struggling to hear. Yeah, the Selenium, the question is the Selenium testing in Copado. So the Selenium testing in Copado is an automatic regression testing part that we have, and we are not expecting you to write your test scripts by using JavaScript or any other languages. We have this Google Chrome extension that you can use. By using this Google Chrome extension, you can basically record all your keyboard and mouse activities to build your test case. And then by combining those cases, you can basically test entire application that you have, entire features, all the platform is available for the testing. Sorry, I really couldn't. The CLI. We don't have CLI, but with DX, we are following a strict the branching strategy. So we are not blocking you to use Copado DX only. You can basically use CLI as well, like you always do with Salesforce TX functionalities, or any Git command is available. If you need further details, I can show you what to do in the booth. How often do we do versions? Basically, we are following Salesforce versions. So whenever Salesforce releases a version, we are trying to release a new version to fulfill all new functionalities that Salesforce presented. If Salesforce introduces a new metadata API, the time frame would be depending on the complexity of that new version of the metadata API. But normally it's not more than 15 days or something like that. I cannot give you a certain answer for this. I think we ran out of time. Thank you all for joining and thank you for listening. If you have any other questions, we will be at the booth.